Evening in Opקים, an immigrant town in Israel. People whose origins span the globe celebrate the end of another year for the Opkim Education and Community Project. Yemenite dances, Moroccan music, diverse cultures blend in a folk song of modern Israel. Early morning in Kibbutz Kisafim. Ruth Paz, a founding member, prepares to leave the confines of this self-sufficient commune to make the 20-minute journey to her work.
I came to Opkim at first as a volunteer, together with other kibbutz people. We started all sorts of activities for neighborhood children, improvising, using shelters as club rooms. We organized summer camps in the kibbutzim for the kids and for the mothers. At a certain point, I began to feel very frustrated. I asked myself where all this was leading. We weren't going to be coming here to Opkim once or twice a week forever. And when we stopped coming, what would remain of all this? The more I thought about it, the more it seemed to me that we were off on the wrong track. If people like myself have any business coming to a town like this in the first place, it should be to help people to acquire tools, to develop skills, essentially, to help people to help themselves.
Mirrors. Each reflects her partner, now leading, now following. These women, local housewives and mothers, are employed as community councillors in Opkim. The game, a fragment of their training in a program concerned as much with self-examination as with the acquisition of an impressive range of professional skills. In a sense, this group was born out of the frustration Ruth experienced during that early volunteer program. To give substance to her ideas, she approached the Bernard Van Leer Foundation, a foundation which supports the development of community-based educational experiments, especially in socially deprived areas, responded. In 1977, the Education and Community Project Opkim came into being. But what do we mean by social deprivation? Poverty?
If I had to define the problems of Opkim and towns like it in one sentence, I'd say their main problem is dependence. There's dependence of the people on the local establishment for all kinds of things, not just services. And in turn, there's the dependence of the town itself on the services of professionals from outside, and on central government, both for money and for directives. I don't think that they chose this situation, or that they prefer it, but that's how the system functions. There's a whole syndrome of dependence. Historically, it goes back to the very way these towns were established.
A town of 12,000, established in the early 50s, Opkim was born of necessity. In less than a decade, the population of Israel tripled. Settlements and towns appeared like mushrooms after rain as waves of immigrants arrived. They came primarily from the pre-industrial societies of the Islamic world. They lacked housing, work, and administration, even a common language. Ironically, perhaps it was the very success of national institutions in meeting these needs which brought about this syndrome of dependence in the endless blocks of flats. As time passes, however, people begin to shape their own environment. One man builds himself a castle. The silo maker outdoes them all. In several neighborhoods, the project has established centers for mothers and their children. In the Remet Center, a playgroup for toddlers meets 2 mornings in the week. The mothers, who share in the running of the group, bring their children and are free to go about their business. Free, that is, for all but 1 morning in the month, when each takes her turn assisting the 2 project counselors who regularly staff the group.
I really enjoy it. I know all the children and they know me, and I love it here. I feed them and play with them. I sing songs with them, and I learn the songs too. Miri and Rachel teach us what to do, and that's it.
The children experiment with toys and materials, learning by doing. The presence of a variety of children and adults stimulates the growth of language and social skills. Malka works as a home visitor in the Emra program. Once a week, she visits the home of Rachel Abergil, who participates in the program with Imbal, the youngest of her 10 children. Each visit is planned around a specific educational activity, chosen to match the needs and developmental level of the individual child. The title of the program, Emra, is an acronym of the Hebrew words for mother-teacher. Rachel is encouraged to see herself as her daughter's first and most important teacher, and despite the demands of a large family, to set aside a little time to play with Imbal between Malka's visits. The child's progress is checked every 3 months with the help of the Denver Developmental Screening Test. This permits Malka to monitor Imbal's development and provide feedback for Rachel. Every visit brings new games, new problems to solve. At a weekly meeting of project counsellors, we see Malka in a different role. Initial training consists of an intensive 4-week course, backed up by these regular in-service training sessions for all the counsellors. The emphasis, as ever, on learning through experience. 5 women have been given roles in a psychodrama, which they will act out freely.
ומי יעזור לי בבית? את לא רואה את הבלגן, את לא רואה? את כל הזמן עם... מי? כל הזמן עם... מה קרה? לא, אני לא יכולה. אני הולכת מהבית הזה, אני לא יכולה.
Ranged around the harassed mother, the children. One, over-anxious to please, wheedles. Another screams for attention. Teenage daughter wants out from under, while her father rages for peace after a 36-hour shift at work in the prison service. A typical happy family scene, such as might confront any of these women in their work. Enter the Emra counsellor. Shoshana acts out some waiting pitfalls. Too quick to advise, she fails to listen.
Sometimes it happens that in the course of our work we come up against situations where we tend to pass judgment, to make value judgments about mother's character or circumstances. I think we must avoid this. Judgments must be absolutely taboo.
In spite of the mother's rising irritation, Shoshana continues to impose her solutions.
In my opinion, a counselor should be tolerant, reliable, good at listening, and very responsible.
Where tea and sympathy would fit the bill, Shoshana tactlessly suggests that the child requires professional help. The defensive response is comic here. Reality is another matter.
In a circumstance, for instance, when a mother is having difficulty accepting you as a counselor, she may hurt you, either intentionally or without knowing it. You must know when to swallow it and say nothing, or when to react in a way that won't hurt her.
I have a thing against professionals. I mean, I don't want to disparage professionals, but the professional doesn't have a magic formula. He has some tools, skills in a certain field. That's all he really has. Very often, ordinary people with common sense and healthy intuition find better solutions than the most highly skilled professional.
Etty, another Emra counsellor, arrives at the home of Batsheva in the Ben Gurion neighborhood. On the wall outside, a death notice.
There was a war in Lebanon. It happened at a roadblock in Alais. There was a bomb in a car, and he was completely burned. There was nothing left of him.
When tragedy struck this family with the loss of a husband and a father, Etty was afraid of intruding on Batsheva's grief. She turned for advice to the Emra program supervisor, Beryl, at one of their regular weekly meetings.
I was afraid of the reaction, so I asked for someone to come with me the first time after what had happened. If Batsheva remembers, I showed up the first time with another counselor. I was surprised that Batsheva welcomed us so nicely. I mean, she even spoke openly about the subject. She didn't hide anything. She said she wanted to continue the relationship. She liked having a counselor call once a week, and it didn't bother her at all.
בואי, את יודעת, אנחנו נשים פה את כל האדומים, פה את הצהובים, ופה, פה את הירוקים.
Taking in the washing suggests a game with Meital, the youngest of Batsheva's two children. An exercise in sorting colors, the game demonstrates how simple household objects often make the best toys.
The truth is that it's good for the child and it's good for me. She comes and plays with her, and it adds a lot. The child learns things. To tell you the truth, I don't have much patience for sitting with the children these days. She used to come before as well, and it's really needed. So I didn't want to stop. I wanted to continue with it.
Empty for 4 years before the project moved in, the Ben Gurion Center is a hive of activity. Upstairs, a library of didactic games for parents and kindergarten teachers. With simple, accessible information, they are encouraged to make their own. These same qualities ensured the success of a book produced by the project to fill a gap in the Hebrew literature. Step by step and side by side is a sequential activity guide for parents and others to the stages of development in the first 3 years of life. Downstairs, these concepts are applied in a toy-making group for mothers. They are learning to make and use finger puppets, sharing in Margot's rich experience.
With these finger puppets, you help first of all the development of language and the imagination, and also the control of the emotions.
מתי תגמרי לסרוג את הגרב? מתחבקים ועושים שולם, שולם, שולם לעולם, ברוגז, ברוגז, אף פעם.
אחת הבעיות בעבודה עם במחאות. One of the pitfalls in work with so-called deprived children, and I really reject this kind of labeling, is a belief that if we develop programs which enhance cognitive skills, this will get them there. But that's totally inadequate. A person is not just a bundle of cognitions. He also has feelings, and he's a social being. We have to consider the totality, the whole person. This is the approach we try to get across. This is how we see the child, and for that matter, the community.
דנה, עוד חול פה, נשים עוד חול פה, כן? דנה, דנה, עוד חול.
With 2 deaf children to cope with apart from her work, Margot, who left school at 14, has emerged as one of the project's most talented and creative counselors. She largely created the toy-making and mother and toddler programs, as well as taking part in the training of new counselors. How does her husband, David, respond to these demands on her energies?
The project has changed her from one end to the other. She's a completely different woman. She's not the Margot I married 11 years ago. She's something special. What's so special? Well, she's always a leader in her work, you know? Like a kind of a boss. I don't know. Everybody comes to her, consults her, asks her questions all the time. She gets great satisfaction from her work. And how many times have I told her not to do it? Because at first I thought she would neglect the house. But she's hooked on it. She loves the job. She's completely sold on it.
Thursday is market day for Mazal, as for housewives throughout the country. Everything must be bought and prepared before sunset on Friday night when Shabbat comes in. She has a family of 5 to feed, heavy commitments to her work in the project, and on top of all this, she is studying for a BA degree in the humanities at the Open University. For her, the conflict between the roles of wife-mother and working woman is a real issue. Pnina looks after the toddlers every Monday morning, while Mazal leads a discussion group for their mothers in the Ben Gurion Center. The theme is family life, the aim to better understand themselves in relation to husbands and children. While an article or a quotation is often used as a starting point, the talk is never far from the tensions of everyday life as these women experience it. Each has something to contribute, often finding profound relief in the discovery of a problem shared.
I tell him, you know you have to do some housework. You have to share in everything. And he says, lay off. I work 8 hours, and that's enough. I come home to rest. So I tell him, I work too. And he says, no, that's your duty. I was 11 years at home, and then one day I'd had enough. But like I said before, I didn't just sit. I knew how to do most things for myself. What hurts me is that these women sit quietly waiting for the word from on high, as if all they need is directions from me. I'm wondering, how come a woman doesn't find all this inside herself and rebel? Not even rebel, just question the situation, that it shouldn't be like this.
Mazal and others like her in the project have become widely recognized as community leaders. 2 of the major political parties here have asked her to join their list of candidates in local council elections. Politicians appointed by that council form the executive committee of the association which administers the project. With 6 years of support from Van Leer coming to an end, survival depends on their ability with the association to ensure continued finance and protection from undue political pressure.
I assume that all of us from our positions on the council will be able to ensure finance for the association. And I think it would be best if the association itself employs the staff.
Much thought has been devoted to organization and structure to ensure survival in times of widespread cutbacks. One program which may be curtailed if the budgetary axe should fall takes place in the Eli Cohen Neighborhood Center. 3 to 8-year-olds use the center in the afternoons. This is not just an exercise in keeping children off the streets. The wide range of activities here are carefully chosen. The child is free to move from one to another. The staff presence low-key and non-directive. Such opportunities for creative expression and discovery are rare in the structured environment of a school. If they cease to exist here, they will be sorely missed.
אני חושבת שבמקרה הגרוע, נגיד שתוכניות תפסקנה. I think that even under the worst set of circumstances, let's say if programs are closed down, or if money earmarked for us is transferred elsewhere, even if we have to fold up shop and send everybody home. And that could happen, you know. No one can take from us what we have accomplished up to now. First and foremost, there's the local team, the paraprofessionals. Our aim was to develop local grassroots leadership. I don't think anybody's going to be able to lead these women by the nose.
Threats there may be, but the project moves on. Candidates for a new training course must be bright, open, and committed to the community.
לינדה, אני רוצה לשאול אותך בקשר לבעלך, איך הוא מתייחס לילד ואיך את מרגישה כלפי זה?
How does your husband relate to your children? How should you react when two children fight? What do you think of education in Opקים? What do you read? Some of the women facing these questions had been involved in the project's activities as mothers, as had Linda. As a group, they performed significantly better than average. New councillors, new challenges. An absorption centre for new immigrants in Opkim. The latest arrivals are Falashes, Jews from remote areas of Ethiopia. Shoshana, an Emra councillor, is herself an immigrant from the Soviet Union. The difficulty this family faces in adapting to modern Israeli society can hardly be overstated. Coming from African village life, the toys Shoshana brings are completely unfamiliar to Zainesh. Shoshana's hands assist her words, explaining the purpose of a toy. Language is yet another bridge to cross. The game, however, though it may be as new to mother as to son, serves the same purpose here as elsewhere. Playing with the blocks introduces concepts of shape, size, and color. Concepts David will need if he is to reach the starting line of an Israeli kindergarten.
את חברי הנהלת הפרויקט, מר משה דהן, מר משה יהודה, הגברת רות פז.
The annual celebration is part party, part graduation ceremony. Every mother who has completed a year's regular participation in the Emra program is presented with a certificate, an acknowledgement of a new ability to understand and answer the social, emotional, and intellectual needs of her children. Perhaps this is in a sense the graduation party of the project itself. Its community-based, paraprofessional approach has attracted attention throughout the country. Specific programs, Emra in particular, are being applied in other towns and communities. In Opkim, despite difficult times, these women and the local association look to the future with a quiet optimism, confident of the widespread support they enjoy in the community, now that the time has come for Ruth and the Van Leer Foundation to withdraw.
For the next generation, this will be a different place, I hope.